Today's World Insight, a suspected early COVID-19 case in the U.S.
And again, it's just a belief because the test that I have is what's considered an antibody test. So all it does is prove that at one time I had coronavirus.
The promise of a coronavirus treatment and cure.
So that's sort of our China clinical trial improvement definition. So it has to be improvement over two different clinical levels.
And the debate over the virus's origin, all from people in the know. Here is our host, Tian Wei.
Hello, welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. We begin with the latest on the China-U.S. trade relations. The two sides have reaffirmed their commitment to the Phase 1 deal they reached last year. Their chief negotiators spoke over the phone Friday morning, Beijing time. Chinese Vice Premier Liu He was on the call with the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. They also said that they will work together in public health as well as on the economic policies. U.S.-China ties are strained as the origin of the virus has become such a big topic for bilateral ties. Certainly, it is being politicized. In fact, nobody knows the answer. Only the scientists who have been doing research about it could tell us more about the scientific evidence of it. But President Donald Trump referred to the virus as the China virus from the very beginning, and despite WHO guidelines against labeling viruses after geographical locations. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, on the other hand, said the coronavirus originated in a research lab in Wuhan, as if he knew the evidence and he had the evidence. But later he backed up from the original claim and admitted to lack of evidence. So there are been reports from different countries tracing cases before the virus officially reached their borders, according to the latest information. But whether these cases can survive scientific scrutiny is another question. But I'm sure many of these cases will pop up from different parts of the world for the days, weeks, and months to go. Earlier, I talked to one of those people who said they had the COVID-19 last year before their countries officially declared the first case. Michael Melham, the mayor of Belleville from New Jersey in the United States. Melham has tested positive for the antibody test one time, and he suggested that he was infected last November with COVID-19. So what does this new development, at least claimed by this mayor, mean for the research about COVID-19? Let's find out. And now we are joined by Michael Melham, mayor of Belleville from New Jersey. Mr. Mayor, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Tell me more about your story.
The middle to the end of November, I had suffered really, really bad symptoms, most of the symptoms that are normally associated with coronavirus. And the reason why I believe that, and again, it's just a belief because the test that I have is what's considered an antibody test. So all it does is prove that at one time I had coronavirus. But at that time, there was no other time period in the last few months that I had ever been where just a really bad sore throat early on, but that quickly evolved to a high fever. I had chills, I had night sweats, I had a lot of body aches, and then when it really got bad was some of the slight hallucinations I had for a day or so.
Did the doctor tell you anything at that time?
He just described it as you're going through flu-like symptoms. More than likely you have a flu. It's viral. There's nothing you can do. I had just come back from a 4 or 5 day conference, and he thought maybe I was slightly dehydrated, or maybe I was just tired. I needed some time to relax. There was absolutely no point to go into his office because a flu is viral, and he said, I can give you a flu test, but chances are that's what you have, and I can't treat you anyway. Besides, you have to just wait this out and rest.
Did you have difficulties breathing? Because a lot of people were having huge difficulty breathing, and usually it lasted 1 or 2 days. A huge amount of sweat during the nighttime. What about for yours?
Sure, I had nearly every single symptom. However, the one symptom I did not have was respiratory issues, but I actually believe that I had treated for that myself.
How much the antibody test of COVID-19 will be able to trace one's case months earlier, rather?
So, and that's a good point to make. There is absolutely no way to definitively know a time period when I was positive. I will tell you this, though. The antibody test that I took was a blood test. It's considered a whole blood test. And I will say that it does test for two different antibodies. It tests for the IgG, and I believe it's the IgM or the IgA. The IgG, which is the one that I tested positive for, is the longer lasting antibody. That one proves that it has been in my body for some time period, and my body did not recently fight coronavirus and did not recently form the immunity.
There are a lot of asymptomatic cases. So would your case belong to that, and therefore different from what you earlier claimed as you were sick in November with COVID-19?
Listen, I mean, anything is possible. And there's only two options here. The two options are that I was sick with coronavirus when I believe I was in November. That is supported by every single symptom that's currently related to coronavirus, and the fact that I had never been sicker in my 25-year adult life. I have never been that sick before. I described it at that time when I was going through it. I described my symptoms as a drug addict or a heroin addict going through withdrawals. That's how bad I was. So that's scenario A. Option B is that I had it more recently and I was asymptomatic. And to that, I say that I know my body very well. I'm in tune with my body. I would know if my immune system is fighting something off. I would be fatigued or tired. And then it also stands the reason that the antibody I tested for is the longer lasting antibody. So while there is no empirical evidence or no empirical proof, I could only go by how I felt, what my symptoms were at that time period, and it makes sense to me and a lot of other people, actually.
What about your family members, or what about people that are working in the same office with you, who you have close contact? Were they having any symptoms?
But as far as family members go, I've had my mother. My mother's a 77-year-old woman.
Yes.
She has been in quarantine now for almost 40 days. Thankfully, she's very healthy.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of debate, as you may know, Mr. Mayor, as to when and where the virus and the patient zero and how it jumped from animal to human being. Now, these are mainly questions only scientists could answer, but what do you make of the debate that is going on right now?
Well, yeah, you're right. It seems like everybody has an opinion at this point. And really, my main inclination to actually go forward was to actually be an advocate for somebody like myself that should be tested for antibodies, and hopefully we can use our antibodies to donate our plasma. Everything else that has transpired since then is something that I don't really weigh into. I personally believe that governments at all levels, whether it's local, state, federal, and international, governments at all levels, as well as the media, we really shouldn't be involved in the debate of origin or where is patient zero. I'd like to leave that for the scientists, for the doctors, for the people who actually study this stuff. I'm not really interested in timelines. Timelines don't matter to me. I know what I felt, and I know when I felt it.
Mr. Mayor, since you were interviewed by the media, I believe the first story probably came out by CNN. It was shaped in a way as if you were the earliest patient zero, quote unquote, at least for now, in the United States. How do you like the media's cooking up the story?
I'm not happy with it. You know, I think it lost sight of the initial, my initial goal was, like I said, to be an advocate for antibody testing. I'm not happy about what the media claims, nor am I happy with government's claim. You know, our media here has said some things on a local level. Our media here on a state level has said some things. At the federal level, though, you mentioned CNN. CNN came out with a report 2 days ago talking about more than likely the virus was here before January. A very reputable publication here in the States called Newsweek. They came out, they have scientists saying it's been here since September. So, you know, I don't really like, and I don't want, and I certainly don't own the patient zero complex, because I have received thousands, and I say thousands, of social media comments, posts, and emails from people, one, supporting and encouraging me for not only speaking, but because they went through the same exact thing. So more than likely, I'm not patient zero. I don't like being patient zero, but nor do I like the media calling me that.
I know your city is still suffering from the epidemic, the pandemic, but a lot of other places in the United States are thinking about partial normalcy or even coming back to normalcy. yet there are a lot of challenges. So how do you assess the danger and also the possibility, sir?
So you're absolutely right. We are beginning, because we have what they said, flattened the curve, we are beginning to come out of it. There is no definitive answers as to what we're going to be doing. Here in New Jersey, we take our lead from the governor. The governor sets the standard as to what's open and what's closed. So for instance, some state parks and some golf courses and some open air recreational spaces are now open, but school has been canceled. We will not be going back to school in the next semester until at least September. That said, because we're 50 states here, everybody's a little different. So there are states in the Midwest that have not been as ravaged as we've been. They're going back to normal a little earlier. They're going to bars and restaurants are now going to be open, whereas we're taking it a little slowly here. I'm glad to see it. I really am glad to see it. I want to get back to normal as soon as possible.
The job of a mayor is very heavy right now during a time of the pandemic. I want to thank you, sir, for your time, and also be well and be safe, you, your family, and also your city people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.